Hello and welcome to Go Clean Energy 2020. I am Jeff Gurman with National Car Charging. Thanks for joining us today for a brief discussion of EV 101 and some other related topics on electric vehicles. Today we're going to talk about adoption rates of electric vehicles, how fast people are buying them, leasing them, putting them on the roads, why they purchase EVs, and what are some of the barriers why they're not buying, leasing them? Where do they charge the vehicles up? Types of charging, different types of charging techniques, and how people own them, lease them, and what kind of incentives are available for all of us to take advantage of to adopt and eventually get into EVs. I represent a company, National Car Charging. We're one of the longest running companies, private sector companies in the United States with electric vehicles. We sell hardware, software. We also do planning and work with public sector as well as private sector companies all over North America. Basically, an electric vehicle has three types of vehicles. There's a hybrid electric vehicle, there's a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and a battery electric. We're all pretty much familiar with hybrids. They've been around about 20 years. Many companies now build hybrids. It's a blend of using some electric braking power for efficient use and increased mileage, but still using a gas engine. Plug-in hybrids basically come in different vehicles as well, and plug-in hybrids also are a combination of EV, electric vehicle, as well as gas, and of course, the battery-only electric vehicle that we're now seeing on the roads. According to data from last year, 2019, the global adoption of EVs is really picking up. But an interesting topic, the Scandinavian nations of Norway, Iceland, and Sweden are accounting for most of those adoption rates. Why is that? As you can see, the United States is down at the bottom with Denmark, France, and the United States. Canada is even higher in terms of the percentage of vehicles that we have. So the exciting thing about electric vehicles, as we're all finding, is year over year sales from 2019 have increased 81%. Now, those numbers will be skewed and different this year because of COVID. So the numbers are not going to be totally accurate as they were from 17, 18, and 19. But the penetration is continuing to become more apparent as more people are buying a second, and certain cases, third vehicles, and they're adding electric vehicle for their local and regional driving. But to emphasize, COVID has put somewhat of a dent this year with our driving habits having to change. But it's also been a great opportunity for some of the automakers to continue to evolve and put out new electric vehicle types. And this is a moment where I can talk about some of the programs that are available out there for all of us. Ride and drive programs. There's an organization in Portland that you should be aware of if you are not, called Fourth, and they have many prominent ride and drive opportunities. In fact, the first week of October, there will be some ride and drive events throughout your area. The worldwide projected growth is anticipated to be over 60 million units by 2040. Right now, compared to the United States, where we have less than 2 million units. So that's really quite a jump. As you can see the numbers as they move to the right on the screen, they go up substantially. China, obviously, since they have a number of manufacturers in China, lead the way, but also Germany using the EU and all the countries associated, and then of course the United States picking up. But as the years move forward, starting in about 2028, those numbers will start to go up substantially. So this is a perfect time to be an early adopter. In 2019, this was an amazing number. Again, we always want to know where they find them, but I guess it's based on the number of units. They're sold every 90 seconds in the US. Someone is actually purchasing an electric vehicle as compared to a combustion gas-driven vehicle. Very exciting as the numbers keep changing and going up rapidly every year. I think the most exciting thing in the marketplace right now that I have found with my research and talking to people in the industry throughout is the pickup truck. Most of us have, in fact, an interesting statistic, 69% of the US market is made up of pickups. And that's quite a number. So you have several manufacturers that are moving in the direction and probably will be releasing their first copies of EV pickup trucks in the next 2 to 5 years. Some of the brands that we've already heard about are Rivian, NIO, of course, the Ford Motor Company, which is the leader with the F-150. They're very excited about the opportunity of releasing a EV truck and hopefully getting exciting adoption because of the fact that they sell so many pickups still today, even more so than their gas vehicle line. And another company that you'll hear about, it's called Lordstown, based out of Lordstown, Ohio, and it's basically going to be a light-duty vehicle. This is a market that I have seen that will probably be the next largest market share for this industry. Small to medium-sized companies in the retail as well as wholesale space, specifically our package transit, the last mile or the last 5 mile type of people. Of course, Amazon, UPS, FedEx, and United States Postal Service are either in the process of purchasing EV light-duty fleets or planning on. And the Lordstown plant is being converted from a General Motors facility that they've had for almost 50 years. So really look forward to seeing some of those light-duty vehicles, probably on the roads as soon as next year. And one of the things that we have to keep in mind with this conference and the world is, of course, with the CO2 that's in the atmosphere and the continuing emission of CO2, anything we can do to help to diminish and replace the CO2, we can do that through the adoption of EVs. That would be something that was a great idea, and we want to have that as soon as possible. And government policies in any new technology field, and I've evolved over the years from renewable energy, and I realized back in the 80s and early 90s that the solar and renewable space did get a helping hand from the United States government, as well as for certain tax credits. Very similar ways with the electric vehicle market. The cost right now is high because the number of units being manufactured is much smaller than large assembly lines. So there are different incentives. You can see some of the countries that see and have been adding incentives for their policies, including the United States. And we will be doing that more on a regional, statewide basis. Of course, Oregon has a series of EV charging grant programs available through utilities, as well as in some cases, new vehicles qualify, as well as in some cases now, used electric vehicles. So if you are considering a used vehicle, especially an EV, make sure that you ask either your dealer or who you're buying a private party, or you can go online to the Fourth and other websites to see what incentives in Oregon are available. And another thing that's really exciting about the operation of an EV is people will say, what do I have to take care of? And what do I have to be concerned with? most of us now, we keep to a very strict, or hope to keep to a strict schedule of maintenance. A gas-powered vehicle, everything from, of course, tire rotations, oil changes, filters, and others. In EVs, batteries now are running at least 50 to 100,000 miles. So that means that a battery bank that is in the vehicle itself either can be or not have to be replaced in probably the lifetime of ownership for someone who's driving an EV. If someone's going to keep it for many, many years, there are second life options available now where you can go into a dealership. They can literally take half a day, remove that battery bank, and in many cases put a new or a second life battery bank in the EV itself, which is very exciting. So the only maintenance that needs to be taken care of are the tires and the wiper blades. But for the most part, it's very, very simple to operate. And if you put the numbers side by side, the AAA Automotive Club will show you that there is a significant savings per mile for an EV compared to a gas-powered vehicle. And as we said a moment ago, there are tax incentives available. Please check your respective state and local jurisdictions to see where they exist. The other advantages you may have is you can get into carpool lanes. For those of us that live in urban or suburban areas, they are, in some cases, in California, of course, there are stickers that can be placed on the vehicles that allow them to go into HOV, high occupancy vehicle lanes. And also in our region, we do have preferred parking in some urban areas. They want to encourage people to come and visit, shop in their downtowns. So they're giving you a great opportunity for parking spaces. This is pretty exciting for many people who are adopting EVs as well. It's a benefit that they're looking for. What are the barriers to EV purchases? Well, many of us who already have them would say there's no barriers. However, at the moment, there are some barriers that exist, and we have to see them from a pragmatic standpoint. Sometimes people are very concerned about range anxiety. That's a term that's been adopted the last few years. It basically means you need to be aware of how many miles pretty much your EV car can travel. It is going to be dependent on the type of power systems you use, the time of year, and so on. However, for the most part, range anxiety basically means that if you're going to take a long-term trip, some vehicles have less than 100 miles for a full charge. So obviously, if we're going to be taking that vehicle past 100 miles, wherever you may be it on a long trip or even a regional trip, you need to do some planning to find out where the charging stations are along the route. The exciting thing about it is there are many apps now available in smartphones that will give you a whole route. The AAA is now adopting some of these programs. So just similar to years ago when the AAA had a triptych, now you can do an EV triptych essentially, being able to map out where the chargers are. So it's very simple to find out what apps are available. PlugShare is one, but every brand of company does represent them, as well as some of the software companies that we can talk about in a moment for networking. And another question is, where do EV drivers charge their vehicles? Well, the numbers are pretty stark still in this sense that 80% of EV drivers charge at home. And that's pretty easy to understand since most of us are living with our vehicles and we have a charging device of some sort at our homes. And if we're going to be there 10 to 12 hours, then it's pretty simple for us to do that. But those of us who are commuting, who are still active and working and driving and being in different environments, we want to know that there are charging stations and infrastructure at other places that we go. So as the slide shows, many of us who will be traveling again someday will want to know when they plan their trips, they can go to a hotel or hospitality location. More hotels are now adopting chargers, and many of the apps, again, available on charging as we work with clients, we really emphasize to them to advertise that they have EV chargers on site. You can have a small icon on there, and people who are actually driving EVs, for those of you who are in the audience, know this. Many times you'll have to call the hotel to find out if they have a charger. I know people who are driving EVs who will not go to a hotel unless they have an EV charger there. So many of the apps who are now advertising, some TripAdvisor and some of the other locations, they're finally getting smart and they're adding EV charger icons to those locations. Shopping centers and various national chains are adding chargers to their locations. In many cases, you will be able to shop at those locations and be encouraged to go there and probably not have to pay a fee while your car is there, as long as you can show you're going in to the shopping center or the center to do that. And of course, another important area is at the office, workplace. Although that's being redefined this year during COVID, but there still are a number of office locations that are still adding chargers, because at some point, someday, there will be a gradual group of people going back to the office. So pretty much these are the four main areas that you would see charging infrastructure: home, hospitality, shopping, and at the office. Could be also industrial workplaces as well. And when you are charging, for those of you who are new to this arena, there are three different basic types of charging devices. They basically are measured in 1, 2, and 3 levels, and that's all based on the size of the hose or the pipe or the speed of the charger. The level 1 is a home-based product, relatively slow. It runs under 1.5 kilowatts to 1.9 kilowatts, and your drive time in terms of charging is 3 to 5 miles range per hour. So if you're going to be home for up to 12 hours, you can see how long it will take to give you a full tank of charge. When you're on the road, in most cases in a regional environment, you can go with an AC, which is alternating current level 2, faster charger, higher amperage, and the actual range of charging goes from 10 to 20 miles per hour. So if you're at a shopping location, or if you're having dinner or somewhere, even at a workplace, you could give yourself at least a 40 to 60% or 80% charge during your day, depending on how long you leave it at a level 2 charger. Right now, the level 2 charger is the primary charger you see out on the road. However, now they're starting to see more large-scale chargers. These are larger devices, they're much faster, and many of them are being placed next to or nearby interstate highways or US highways. In the Central Oregon region, US 97 has a few chargers that are now being installed with DC fast charging. And the pace of charging networks, this is an interesting graph or slide because it shows that there's more EV drivers coming on the market ahead of infrastructure. So the more drivers, that means there's more demand for charging. So that means it's up to us to install, hopefully, more and encourage more installations of charging apparatus and hardware. Future technologies. People often ask us, what are we going to see in the future? Some of the shows or some of the literature will show there's going to be a wireless. There's more Wi-Fi applications coming on right now. And there's going to be someday overhead wiring. And even in Germany, they have a few experiments where actually on the highway, they have sensors and also battery technology that actually can go up. But one of the areas that I think is more realistic in the next several years, you'll see in the United States, and that's vehicle to grid, microgrid charging. With the advent of thousands of people charging at home, they'll be able to possibly even place their energy, excess energy, back into the utility grid. And I wanted to say to everyone today, thank you very much for joining me. Talk to you soon.